jolly good.
Well, hello there, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Clank Zolker, and welcome to another My Forts on. Today, I'm going to be talking about the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I tried. That was a really horrible Bullwinkle impression. As you can tell, today I'm going to be talking about the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Me trying to do a terrible narrator impression too. Okay. So this is the 2000 live-action animated hybrid film like Roger Rabbit. Technically, this came out in 2001 in the UK. I think it was released in cinemas, according to a friend of mine. He said he saw it this film was actually 20 years old. It came out February 20 years ago in the UK anyway. So he told me he's seen it in the cinema once. Yeah, so I guess that's my proof that. So this film is kind of infamous for being a very... how do I put it? A really bad movie, like one of the worst films of all time kind of thing. And to be honest with you, I don't quite get the hate for this movie. I mean, I've seen it once before and I don't remember too much about it. I watched it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think either 5 or 6 years ago. And this is actually the first time I've heard of Rocky and Bullwinkle from this movie. I know there's a cartoon about the cartoon duo. I know there's it's an Amazon Prime series as well. There's also a short that played before Peabody and Sherman, very fittingly. And yeah, all I know about this film is that for some reason so many people really do not like this movie. Robert De Niro's in it, which is very, very bizarre. Rene Russo, Jason Alexander, Randy Quaid. Oh, so many people. It's just bizarre. So, is it really as bad as people say it is to be? Well, let's find out. The film is about Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Rocky is voiced by the always wonderful June Foray, the late June Foray actually, and Bullwinkle, voiced by Keith Scott. And they are both needed for help in a way, because the three villains from their cartoon, Fearless Leader, Robert De Niro, Natasha Rene Rizzo, and Boris Badenoff, that is a really funny surname to be fair, played by Jason Alexander, they come to the real world in order to hypnotise these people to watch RBTV, which stands for Really Bad Television. And they're going to hypnotise them and make them vote for Fearless Leader. Vote for Fearless Leader. And Rocky and Bullwinkle are called to try and save the day by Agent Karen Sympathy, played by Piper Perabo. I hope that's how you pronounce her name, but there you go. She was in Looper. She was also in, recently, Angel Has Fallen. So there's that. And they both have to join her in order to stop the three villains, and at the same time Natasha and Boris have to stop them three as well. Where to begin? First off, this is one of the oddest movies with the strangest sense of humour. I mean, the sense of humour is either pick your poison. It's either really funny and clever or just confusing and doesn't know what kind of comedy it wants to be. Does it want to be a clever comedy, a meta comedy, or a kids film? And to call it a kids film is a bit of a stretch. By the way, this film is rated U, even though it should have been a PG. I mean, granted, it hasn't got any violence, but it has got swearing in it. Not as much as Casper or even Roger Rabbit, for that matter, but it's not really a kids film per se. I mean, do kids nowadays know who Rocky and Bullwinkle are, apart from the modern interpretations? I don't know, actually. The story of the film is just... I don't even know how to describe it. on one hand, it's silly because they're trying to stop villains from, turning people into zombies or hypnotizing them with really bad television, which is amusing for a comedy movie like this. But on the other hand, it's so all over the place and so strange that I can't get my head around the idea of the movie. I mean, did anyone ask for a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie? And they even make fun of the writing and also their sense of humour in the show, which is strange. I don't mind when films break the fourth wall. Even Deadpool, I thought, did it better. This film just kind of acknowledges that this film is clearly not working at some level, A few times I did kind of like how they predicted things and actually make fun of the humour, which is a good thing, but if that's all you rely on, then it does get incredibly tiresome really fast. Again, I laughed at the movie about 4 times and it was funny, but just not clever. Other times it was either amusing or just a bit of a stretch, I can't think of anything else. Also, there's celebrity cameos in this film from John Goodman, Whoopi Goldberg, Jonathan Winters. They don't make sense, but it's one of those films where celebrity cameos have to be in here, Oh, and Kel Mitchell, Kenan Thompson, and even David Alan Grier is in this too. Need I say more? This film is... This was made in this was released in the 2000s where, pop culture references, celebrity roles and all that are popular. And this film, I wouldn't say is the most annoying out of that in that category, but still. It's very split in the middle of what it wants to try and be, and I can't tell what film it wants to be. But to its credit, it kind of knows that and just has fun with it. There's lots of silly, lots of unfunny moments where it's supposed to be like the cartoon, especially with the villains. And while it doesn't quite work, it just reminded me more of the Flintstones movie, only not as creative, I guess, but not as horrible in a way. It just feels off. If this was like fully 2D, and this film is 2D animated, to be fair, it could have been like Roger Rabbit in a way where the main characters are 2D, but in this film they're 3D, and I'll get to that in a minute. Or if this was like fully 2D animated, like in their own show, like in the television, then I think this could have worked better as like a very silly, like self-aware movie, but clearly it just wants to be a big Hollywood movie with a very simple yet surprisingly complicated story that just goes above and beyond and just wants to be deep and confusing or something. The story is not... I can't even put into words how the story comes out. It could be clever, I guess. Granted, it's kind of funny, and the animation in the first opening is quite amusing, to be fair. I like the opening. The opening's pretty good. But everything else is either just confusing, kind of patronising, also very pandering for the early 2000s as well. Or it's just all over the place, like really all over the place. I can't say it's good writing or clever-ish, but it's a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. And I should clarify that I know nothing about the cartoon, so I assume, according to Doug Walker's review of the movie, this is how the show kind of is. So, I guess it succeeded at that. But, to be fair, I did kind of enjoy it for how silly and just stupid it is, but I think that's just kind of the whole point. You just have to give in to the insane wackiness and just enjoy it. And while the film may not do that in the same levels of Roger Rabbit, at least it did it in a ironically fun, goofy way, if you can even call it that. Visuals. Yep, you could tell this is from the 2000s. Like, you can tell just from the live action scenes, and even the animation is very, very 2000s. Early 2000s, I might add. Okay, so the 3D animation on Rocky and Bullwinkle, it has not aged well, and this film, like I said, is actually 20 years old. So obviously it doesn't end. It hasn't aged well. But on one hand, it makes sense since they're in a real world and they have to be like 3D or at least close to being real. But there's like an animated weasel in the film that's 2D, and that worked pretty well. So why couldn't Rocky and Bullwinkle be like 2D, like in the movie, like in the TV show? But yeah, it looks fine. It doesn't look awful. It looks good from 2000, when CG was also just trying to involve, trying to be bigger and better. But at the same time, it looks kind of naff and kind of expressionless. Even the 2D animation cartoon, which is supposed to be terrible, is actually a lot more expressible and more convincing. Everything else about the film is creatively fine. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, it's creative in some parts, like some of the effects do look kind of creative, a little bit cheesy, but again, they do acknowledge that. And it does look kind of funny, and on the other hand, it looks fine. It just looks like a very average Universal movie in terms of like cinematography and location. It looks, if you show this to anyone without any context, they'll just assume it's like a silly little kids film about agent stuff without Rocky and Bullwinkle, and then they wouldn't know. So yeah, visually the film just looks like how it should be. Rocky and Bullwinkle look perfectly fine in their design. They fit well, but at the same time, they don't age all that well as well. The 2D animation's better, but yeah, they look weird, but perfectly normal. So yeah, a visually standard, but also pretty okay looking film. Comparing it to Roger Rabbit, though, it won't be any... It's not going to beat that. Come on. Just, no. No. Characters and acting. The weird thing about these characters is that they're not deep, or they're not even trying to be like awesome. They're just cartoons. Even the actors are cartoons. And I don't know how to feel about that. Rocky and Bullwinkle are just the two comic relief cartoon characters. Rocky is like the smart one, but also he seems to be a lot down and depressed, while Bullwinkle is more of the simple-minded, dim-witted, naive moose. And I did get some laughs out of Bullwinkle in terms of how much of a simpleton he is. Rocky, I thought, was just very mopey and dopey, and he's always complaining, and he wasn't even that likeable. The agent they team up with, Karen Sympathy, is just the kind-hearted agent who's just trying to do what's right and trying to let the inner child of herself out, which is, I guess, the film's message. Was there a message to the movie? I don't know. She's fine. She's an okay main character. The villains are actually the best parts of the movie in terms of characters. Fearless Leader, Natasha and Boris. Not only are they pretty funny, and the actors seem to really get into their roles extremely well, but they're also just highly amusing in terms of using the classic cartoon tricks like dynamite, using a helicopter to stop them. They're very, very funny, and Fearless Leader is a pretty likeably entertaining villain. When I say likeably, he's not like, ooh, I hate him for doing all this. I mean, I can understand why in the cartoon aspect of things, but he is just genuinely so much fun, and Natasha and Boris have their own comedic subplot kind of way, and they always like get foiled by Rocky and Bullwinkle, and it is legit funny. Everyone else, like Randy Quaid, who plays this agent, and the cameos are, how do I put it? Fine. It's fine. They don't do a bad job or anything. They just, I don't really seem to do much. I'll be very, very honest. The acting from the cast is something to behold. Robert De Niro's performance, I think he's very miscast in the movie, but he does make up for it in terms of how silly his wacky performance is, and his accent's funny. Same with Jason Alexander as Boris and Renee Russo as Natasha. they do try their hardest and they just have fun with it, even if it's very silly and just goofy. Piper Barabo is, she's just playing the main character part just fine. Keith Scott does a pretty good Bullwinkle impression, and he also voices the narrator as well. How about that? It's pretty cool. June Fourier's Rocky, always a nice, always a good one. Randy Quaid, Janine, I can't remember how you pronounce her name, but Janine Garofalo, who is Colette from Ratatouille, does a fine job here. Everyone does fine, even the cameos from Jonathan Winters, John Goodman, Whoopi Goldberg, I guess Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell are good. Yeah, the characters don't seem to really try as hard as they want to be deep. They're just kind of being silly cartoons, and you can kind of forgive the film on that, but at the same time, then just not. Acting does kind of make up for how silly they are and how goofy everything is, so I can't complain, really. The score by the legendary Mark Mothersbaugh is always a delight. It has the Rocky and Bullwinkle theme on there, and it's simply cartoony-ish delightful. Yeah. I still don't get the hate. I mean, if it's for people who grew up with the cartoon, I guess I get it, but I don't really see anything wrong with it. It's not good, but I can't say it's awful at all. I say it's a guilty pleasure. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle is a okay movie. It's surprisingly okay. It has good humour, and it is aware of itself for the most part, and it visually looks passable, with some okay CG for Rocky and Bullwinkle, and the acting's goofy and silly to have fun with, and there are things to admire about it in a way, and I liked Bullwinkle's simplicity and how naive he is. But the humour can go a little bit too self-aware and a little bit too obvious and just not clever. Visually, it just looks like any other early 2000s, late 90s movie. The CG has not aged well, I'll be very, very honest, and the characters are all just kind of one-dimensionally forgettable. Except for the villains, who are a lot of fun, to be fair. And Bullwinkle. So, I guess if you like the cartoon, you'll probably enjoy this, but there is really nothing to say this is memorable, or this will stand against time or something. Not really. It's okay. It's a perfectly watchable, fine movie. If you like Rocky and Bullwinkle, you'll probably get something out of it. You can show kids this, but I think they'll just kind of get lost and they're only interested in moose and squirrel. So yeah, okay film based on a cartoon kind of thing. Roger Rabbit did this way better in a way, but yeah, it's just in the middle, just okay. It's a guilty pleasure that I do kind of have a soft spot for, even if I'm not a fan or a regular watcher of the TV series. It's passable, but also a guilty pleasure. I'll give it a 6.4 out of 10. It's not awful. It really isn't awful, but it's okay. It's just okay. A guilty pleasure, but still just So there we go. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. A really odd, strange movie that's got so much hate, and yet I still I don't quite understand it in the slightest, but you know what? It's totally fine. I wouldn't mind watching it again. I wouldn't buy it on DVD or anything, but it's fine. Okay. So on Thursday, 2 films left. Looney Tunes back in action, and then the grand finale, Space Jam. Look forward to those, and Space Jam on Friday, because I think the second film comes out Friday. So yeah, look forward to those, and if you have seen the film, what do you think about it? Is it good, bad, decent? Do you want to see it? Let me know below, and as always,
thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. And until next time, I am Rocky. Wait, no, wrong cartoon character. I am Bullwinkle J. Moose. God, I gotta stop doing the Bullwinkle impression. It's horrible. I admit it, it's horrible.